Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending what time zone you're at. I'm here to discuss a topic that is essential to all educators, behavior management. Now, behavior management is a key component to proper classroom management, but where do you even start managing numerous random behaviors that stem from a variety of internal factors? A teacher can start by establishing rules and regulations to keep her class in order. He or she can also start drafting behavior strategies in advance. But how do you even start creating behavior intervention strategies when there's a plethora of behaviors out there to address? So, how to manage behaviors in the classroom is a scientific process that requires observation, accurate data collection, proper identification of the function of behavior, and developing a behavior plan with evidence based practices that addresses each function of behavior to decrease and eliminate the problem behaviors. Now, although PBS is encouraged to provide students with positive support for positive behavior, it isn't applicable to address challenging behaviors. So, as I mentioned before, behavior is a science. So, evidence based practices for behavior intervention is essential, such as applied behavior analysis, also known as ABA. And ABA is used to change behavior. Now, one thing that a lot of teachers need to understand is that behavior is learned, and not only in a child's personal environment at home, but behavior is also taught in school, even unwanted behaviors. So teachers are not aware that they may unintentionally teach unwanted behaviors in the classroom and reinforces them due to the unawareness of the behavior function. Thankfully, with ABA, these behaviors can be reversed. Thus, we use the three-term contingency of ABC data collection to determine behavior functions, why they occur, and how to reverse them. See, ABC stands for antecedent, behavior, and consequence. The antecedent always comes before the behavior, which is known as a trigger, and behaviors are positive or negative, and the consequence follows that behavior. And a consequence can also be positive or negative. So once a teacher is aware of the ABCs, that is when he or she can begin collecting accurate data on their students' behavior. ABC data collection helps us determine the function of behavior, and that's what you want to know. Knowing the function of behavior will guide a teacher in creating behavior strategies for various behaviors. Now, there are four function of behaviors, and they're known as EATs: escape, attention, tangibles, and sensory. I created a chart, an ABC sample, that illustrates students that engage in misbehavior in the classroom, along with this corresponding function of that behavior and how that teacher reinforces those negative behaviors. We're going to start with Carrie. Carrie is in language arts. She is given a writing assignment. She throws the paper on the floor. The teacher gives her a timeout. So the antecedent is the writing assignment. The misbehavior is she throws it on the floor. And the consequence is the teacher gives her a timeout. So the function of Carrie's behavior is escape. She's trying to escape that task of writing. And the teacher reinforces that negative behavior by giving her a timeout. So although she received a timeout, she still was able to escape the task. The next one is Braxton. Braxton is in math class, and Braxton is extremely bored. Then he disrupts the class with his antics. The teacher stops teaching and addresses Braxton's behavior. So the antecedent to Braxton's behavior is his boredom. The behavior is disrupting the class, and the consequence is the teacher addressing his misbehavior. But what is the function? Attention. Braxton seeks attention. And although he's getting verbal discipline, he got exactly what he wanted: attention from the teacher, as also his peers. So Michelle is in content. She is in the middle of an exam. The teacher told all the students that when they're finished with their exam, they're able to go on their Chromebooks and play an educational game until the rest of the class is finished. So Michelle desires to go on her Chromebook. So she rushes through her exam, and the teacher gives her the Chromebook. So So the antecedent of the behavior of rushing through the exam is her desire to go on the Chromebook. The behavior, rushing through the exam, and the consequence is the teacher gives Michelle the Chromebook. So the function of Michelle's misbehavior is tangibles, access to tangibles. She really wants the Chromebook. And the teacher reinforces the negative behavior of rushing the exam by giving her the Chromebook. So lastly, we have Derek. Derek it's reading time for Derek, and he's assigned a book that he does not like. So Derek engages in arm biting. Whenever he's overwhelmed, he bites his arm. Then the teacher takes the book away. So the antecedent of his behavior, of his arm biting, is the book that he's assigned that he does not like. The behavior, arm biting, and the consequence, the teacher takes the book away. So the function of Derek's behavior is sensory. And the teacher, again, is reinforcing the negative behavior by taking away the book whenever Derek engages in biting. So let us take a closer look at one of the students that we use in the chart so we can envision the events that led toward the ABC data collection. So as per usual, fourth grader Braxton is interrupting math instruction, and it's like clockwork. His disruption usually causes a wave of negative behaviors. Suddenly the class is out of control, and any hopes of finishing your lesson plan is out the window. So what do? Do you send Braxton to the principal's office for the 5th time? Perhaps calling his mother again while she's at work? Or do you call him out in front of the class and address his behavior? Not so fast. Ever wonder why Braxton is misbehaving? And why precisely during math? By doing any of the above, you are giving him exactly what he wants: attention. Therefore, you are teaching him that his disruption is the perfect way to get attention, even if it means getting in trouble. Instead of going straight towards the punishment route, the teacher decides to take ABC data on our student's behavior. And as a result, she also identifies the function of his behavior, which was his need for attention from her and his peers. The function of behavior gives the teacher an idea of the reasons behind the behavior and how she can intervene accordingly. The teacher can use what we call a two-prong approach of using preventive strategies and what to do when the behavior reoccurs based on that same function. Let's review Braxton's ABC data so we can establish a behavior intervention plan by using the two-prong method. So the need for attention is a very popular reason for student disruption. Therefore, the teacher needs to create a preventive strategy to avoid this type of behavior. First, the teacher needs to prevent and replace attention-seeking behavior by showing Braxton how to request attention appropriately. Perhaps the class needs a lesson on proper ways of seeking attention, like raising their hand. The point of hand raising is limited to asking questions or to engage in active participation. Perhaps the teacher can expand the concept of hand raising for other reasons, such as expressing their need for attention. Or the teacher can create a visual emotional board that lists a variety, that the children have access to a variety of emotions that can be hung on the wall, write the name of each student, have a clear pocket next to it, and a variety of pictures that illustrate a current emotion. This can regulate uncontrollable hand raising during the instruction. See, the teachers can review the board on their own time and learn how their students feel during lessons. This can also help with lesson planning and preventive behavior strategies for students that clearly don't like a class, and the teacher can figure out more ways to make it fun. And of course, the teacher should always provide rules and boundaries so this method isn't manipulated by the students. It doesn't matter what kind of plan you have, you always have to set some type of rules and boundaries so children don't manipulate it. Another way to prevent or replace attention-seeking behaviors by creating an interactive lesson plan, and I mentioned that earlier. So if math class involved a more collaborative and active learning, maybe that can motivate kids like Braxton to engage more. Also, providing Braxton with physical tasks to keep him occupied can assist in his boredom. Because, every kid has, according to Howard Gardner and his philosophy of multiple intelligence theory, everybody has a certain type of intelligence, where they thrive at, that illustrates their gifts and talents. So if Braxton is a bodily consecutive learner, someone who requires body movement to learn, then perhaps it's better for the teacher to provide Braxton or other kids like Braxton with more interactive lessons. Once the teacher understands the function of behavior, that's when he or she can provide or can create a whole bunch of strategies that can address these kind of behaviors. So sticking to the two-prong approach, if Braxton's attention-seeking behavior interrupts your class, a teacher can use the extinction method, which is discontinuing any reinforcement by avoiding Braxton completely. It is easier said than done, I know, but first you will wrap up the lesson so your students are not missing out on any vital information. Then you wait until Braxton is quiet while you continue teaching something that doesn't hinder the students. But don't let Braxton think that you stopped your lesson plan for him. Continue teaching something, but observe him closely without him noticing, because you want to praise him while he engages in positive behavior, such as sitting quietly. When you see the absence of misbehavior, you will use a technique that's called differential reinforcement of other behavior, which is reinforcing the absence of the problem behavior. So once you witness Braxton sitting quietly, reinforce that behavior by praising him. That is when you give him attention. From then on, you give Braxton attention only when he's behaving accordingly, thus reversing the negative behavior. And mind you, you must remain consistent for this to work. And this is something that you can use for all your attention seekers. Now let's briefly discuss the other children and their functions of behavior. So Carrie throws her assignment on the floor because she's avoiding a task. Let's mention establishing student relationships. Establishing student relationship is important because you'll be more aware of your students' personality, their strengths and weaknesses. Now, if Carrie's teacher took the time to build a strong relationship with her, she would know that Carrie dislikes writing assignments because she's intellectually insecure about her handwriting. Carrie is also failure avoidant, which means avoiding tasks due to the fear of failure. So she prefers to escape writing tasks rather than trying her best. The teacher would dedicate time to helping Carrie with her self-esteem and praising her for trying, more than wanting her to turn in the perfect writing assignment. Also, Carrie is a logical, mathematical, and visual spatial learner, which means her intelligence is associated with learning through images, visuals, and scientific and mathematical thinking. And by praising Carrie more during writing than just math and science because she's so good at it, the teacher can bolster Carrie's intellectual self-esteem in the areas where she feels that she is lacking. Now, Michelle, it's pretty easy. Michelle's desire to use her Chromebook hindered the potential for doing her best on the exam. And the teacher can eliminate this idea of students looking forward to a fun activity after an exam and replace it with another task. Michelle may she may not look forward to finishing an undesirable assignment and may prefer to take her time on the exam. Now with Derek engages in several stereotypical sensory-induced behaviors that are considered odd and even dangerous to himself whenever he's overwhelmed. We call this stimming, and after reading the assignment was given, Derek performed a usual stimming of biting his arm. The assignment must remain, but the teacher needs to block attempts of biting and replace it with sensory chew items suggested by professionals. That is called differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, which is when you replace a negative behavior with a positive one. Also, the teacher should teach her students to ignore Derek's stimming and explain how everyone handles stress their own way. That way Derek is not discriminated against for his sensory behaviors. So in closing, behavior management is all trial and error. It will require dedication, patience, observation, creativity, and building close student relations. It will be a journey into the unknown, but if you're mentally and emotionally equipped to witness all sorts of behaviors, then you will be able to address them correctly. Now that you're all aware of the functions of behavior and how to address each one, you can start accurate data on your students and prepare a personal BIP for your own class to assist you in creating appropriate behavior intervention strategies in accordance with your classroom. This will help with classroom management and creating a welcoming, structured, and I would say compassionate classroom environment. I hope this lecture provides you with ideas on how to handle behaviors in your classroom, and good luck to you all.